Commander Jake Morrison stood at the window of the orbital station New Geneva, watching Earth turn slowly below him. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from here, but Jake knew that was about to change. Today was the day that would decide humanity's place in the galaxy. He had been Earth's military representative to the Galactic Council for 5 years. In that time, he had watched the other species treat humans like children who needed constant watching. The Zephyrians, tall blue beings with 4 arms, always spoke down to him. The rock-like Chronari barely acknowledged humans existed. Even the friendly Velthans seemed nervous around Earth's delegates. "Jake, you need to get to the council chamber now," said Ambassador Lisa Carter as she rushed into the room. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking. Something big is happening. The Zephyrian Prime Minister called an emergency session. Jake had known Lisa for 10 years. She was tough and smart, the kind of person who never showed fear. Seeing her worried made his stomach drop. He followed her through the station's corridors, past aliens from dozens of different worlds. Most of them looked away when they saw the humans coming. The council chamber was huge, with seats for nearly 1,000 representatives from across the galaxy. Jake and Lisa took their places in the small human section. Round them, aliens whispered to each other in languages that the translation devices could barely handle. Prime Minister Zethkar of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the center podium. His blue skin seemed to glow under the chamber lights, and his 4 arms moved in patterns that Jake had learned meant anger and disgust. "Beings of the Galactic Council," Zethkar began, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. "We gather today to address a growing threat to our peaceful civilization. For 30 years, we have welcomed the humans of Earth into our community. We have shared our knowledge with them. We have opened our trade routes to them. We have treated them as equals, despite their primitive origins." Jake felt his jaw tighten. He had heard this kind of talk before, but never in such a formal setting. However, the Prime Minister continued. "The humans have proven themselves unable to follow the sacred laws that have kept our galaxy peaceful for 10,000 years. They expand too quickly. They ask too many questions. They refuse to accept the natural order of things." Ambassador Lisa leaned forward in her seat. "What is he talking about?" she whispered. "We have followed every council law to the letter." "They build ships that are too fast," Zethkar said, pointing one of his 4 hands toward the human section. "They explore systems that should remain untouched. They develop weapons that upset the balance of power. Most dangerous of all, they encourage other young species to break from tradition." Jake remembered the conversation he had with some Altarian engineers last month. They had asked him about human ship designs. Curious about how Earth's vessels could travel so much faster than their old council-approved models, Jake had simply shared some basic information about human engine improvements. Apparently, that was enough to cause trouble. "The humans claim they seek only knowledge and progress," the Prime Minister continued. "But we know where such desires lead. We have seen species destroy themselves and others in their hunger for advancement. We have maintained peace by accepting our proper places in the cosmic order." Dr. Paul Jackson, Earth's chief scientist, stood up in the human section. "Prime Minister, if we could respond to these accusations, there will be no debate." Zethkar cut him off with a sharp gesture. "The decision has been made. The evidence is clear. Humanity has violated the preservation of cosmic order doctrine in 47 separate instances over the past 5 years. Lisa stood up now, her voice carrying across the chamber. "We demand to know what these violations are. We have the right to defend ourselves. You have the right to listen," replied Minister Vorth of the Chronary, his rock-like face showing no emotion. "The Council has reviewed all evidence. The humans of Earth have been found guilty of cosmic disruption, technological recklessness, and corruption of stable species." Jake felt the blood drain from his face. He looked around the chamber and saw that most of the alien representatives were nodding their agreement. Only a few species seemed uncomfortable with what was happening. Therefore, Prime Minister Zethkar announced, by a vote of 847 to 3, "The Galactic Council hereby expels humanity from galactic civilization. All human vessels must return to the Sol system within 1 standard year. All human colonies beyond that system are declared illegal and must be abandoned. All trade agreements with human worlds are immediately void." The chamber erupted in noise. Some aliens cheered while others seemed shocked. Jake grabbed Lisa's arm as she started to stand again. "Let me go," she said, tears of anger in her eyes. "They can't do this. If colonies with millions of people, if families spread across dozens of worlds." "The decision is final," Zethkar continued over the noise. "Any human vessel found outside the Sol system after the deadline will be destroyed. Any alien species that aids humanity will face similar punishment. The corrupt influence of Earth must be contained before it spreads further." Dr. Jackson was shouting now, demanding to be heard. But the alien representatives were already filing out of the chamber. The session was over. 30 years of human presence in the galaxy had just been ended with a simple vote. As Jake and Lisa sat in their empty section, staring at the now quiet chamber, Jake's communicator buzzed. It was Captain Amy Rodriguez calling from the exploration ship New Horizon. "Commander Morrison," her voice crackled through the device. "We just received word about the council vote. I want you to know that my crew and I are not abandoning the colonists on Kepler-4 for 2B. I don't care what the council says." Jake looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's great window. Somewhere out there, millions of humans were about to learn that they had been cast out by the galaxy itself. But as he listened to Captain Rodriguez's defiant words, he realized something important. The galaxy might have given up on humanity, but humanity had not given up on itself. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council threw humanity out of civilized space. Engineer Ben Murphy wiped sweat from his forehead as he crawled through the maintenance tunnels beneath. Mars Colony 7. The air recycling system was failing. Again, and without replacement parts from galactic suppliers, he had to make repairs with whatever scraps he could find. "Ben, how much longer?" asked Colony Director Karen White through his radio. "We have 3,000 people depending on this system." "Give me another hour," Ben replied, though he wasn't sure an hour would be enough. The alien-made components were designed to work for decades without maintenance, but they were also impossible to fix with human tools. Before the expulsion, broken parts were simply replaced. Now, Ben had to figure out how to make human technology work with alien systems. He had been doing this kind of work for months now. Every day brought new problems as galactic technology slowly broke down across human space. The colonists tried to stay positive, but Ben could see the fear in their eyes. What would happen when he couldn't fix things anymore? Meanwhile, on Europa, Foreman Tony Walsh watched his ice mining crew work with equipment that should have been replaced months ago. The massive drilling machines that harvested water from the moon's frozen surface were showing stress fractures. Without these machines, the water supply for the entire Sol system would be cut off. "Well, Tony, we lost another drill head," called out miner Pete Williams as he climbed out of the ice shaft. "That's the third one this week. Metal just can't handle the pressure anymore." Tony nodded grimly. He had been sending reports to Earth for weeks, warning that Europa's mining operation was close to collapse. The response was always the same: make do with what you have. There were no replacement parts coming. "We'll have to reduce the drilling." "Schedule," Tony told his crew. "Half shifts only." "Maybe that will make the equipment last longer." His workers looked worried. They all knew what reduced water production meant for their families back on Earth and Mars. But what choice did they have? In orbit around Earth, Admiral Claire Thompson stood on the bridge of the defense ship Guardian, reading another report that made her angry. 3 more human cargo vessels had been destroyed by Council enforcement ships while trying to trade with alien worlds. The crews were dead, and their cargo of rare metals desperately needed by human colonies was gone. "Admiral, we have another distress signal," reported Communications Officer Dan Cooper. "The merchant ship Liberty is under attack. Near the Vega system, they were trying to trade with the Altarians." Claire closed her eyes for a moment. The Liberty carried medical supplies for the colony on New Terra. Without those supplies, people would die. But if she sent military ships to help, it would mean war with the entire Galactic Council. "Send the message to all ships," she said finally. "Any human vessel that leaves Sol system does so at their own risk. We cannot provide protection outside our own space." It was the hardest order she had ever given, but she had no choice. Earth's defense fleet was powerful, not powerful enough to fight the combined might of 800 alien civilizations, on Earth itself.
Oh.
Dr. Susan Taylor worked late into the night in her laboratory studying pieces of captured Council technology. As one of humanity's leading scientists, she had been trying to understand how galactic civilizations had achieved their advanced technology. What she was finding surprised her. "This doesn't make sense," she said to her research partner, Dr. Kevin Brooks. "Look at this power cell. The design is thousands of years old. There have been no improvements, no innovations. It's like they stopped trying to make things better." Kevin examined the device under a microscope. "You're right. Look at this computer core. The processing power is actually less than what we can build with current human technology." "How is that possible?" Susan pulled up more data on her screen. "I've been comparing Council technology from different time periods. Kevin, I don't think they've made any real technological advances in over 5,000 years. They're using the same designs, the same materials, the same methods. But that's impossible," Kevin said. "Any civilization should continue to develop new technology. It's natural," Susan said slowly. "They're being prevented from advancing. What if the Council isn't just controlling trade and expansion? What if they're controlling technological development too?" Before Kevin could respond, Susan's computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from Colony Administrator Greg Foster on New Terra, one of humanity's most distant settlements. "Dr. Taylor," Greg's recorded image said, "I wanted you to know that we're not giving up out here. The Council thinks they can force us back to Earth by cutting off our supplies, but they're wrong. We're humans. We adapt, overcome. We don't surrender." Greg's message continued. "I'm sending this to every human world, every human ship, every human who can hear it. The Council calls us primitive, but they're the ones living in the past. They're the ones afraid of progress. They're the ones who have forgotten how to grow and change." Susan and Kevin watched as Greg held up a device they didn't recognize. "This is a water purifier built entirely from materials found on New Terra. No galactic technology required. My people designed it, built it, and tested it. It works better than anything the Council ever gave us." The message showed other colonists holding up their own inventions. A power generator built from local minerals. A communication system that didn't rely on Council networks. Even weapons designed to protect the colony from hostile wildlife. "We're not just surviving out here," Greg continued. "We're thriving. Every day, we learn something new. Every day, we build something better. The Council thinks they've isolated us, but they've actually freed us. For the first time in 30 years, we can develop technology without asking permission. From aliens who stopped innovating before our ancestors learned to make fire." As the message ended, Susan looked at Kevin with new understanding. "He's right. We've been trying to fix their technology, to work within their systems. But what if we stopped? What if we started over with purely human designs?" Kevin was already pulling up files on his computer. "I've been working on something. A new type of engine design based on human physics theories. The Council said it was too dangerous to test, but we're not in the Council anymore," Susan finished. "We can test whatever we want." Across human space, similar conversations were taking place. On Mars, Ben Murphy started designing new air recycling systems based on Earth botanical techniques. On Europa, Tony Walsh began experimenting with drilling methods inspired by human mining operations. In the Defense Fleet, Admiral Claire Thompson quietly began developing new ship designs that didn't rely on any galactic technology. The Council had intended to weaken humanity by cutting them off from galactic civilization. Instead, they had done something far more dangerous. They had given humanity the freedom to innovate without limits. Humans were very good at innovation. Linda Hayes, a mechanic on the frontier world of New Hope, summed it up best in her daily log. "The aliens think they've trapped us in our little corner of space. They don't realize they've just given us room to work. And when humans get room to work, amazing things happen." She was right. Amazing things were about to happen indeed. 2 years after humanity's expulsion from the Galactic Council, Dr. Kevin Brooks stood before a crowd of scientists and engineers in the underground laboratory complex beneath Luna City. Behind him, covered by a large sheet, sat the most important invention in human history. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kevin began, his voice steady despite his excitement, "today we change everything." He pulled away the sheet to reveal a sleek engine unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was smaller than the massive jump drives used by Council ships, but the energy readings coming from its core made everyone in the room hold their breath. Project Prometheus is complete, Kevin announced. We have successfully built a faster-than-light drive that surpasses anything in the galactic database. While Council ships are limited to their ancient jump gate network, human vessels will be able to travel anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Dr. Susan Taylor, now Kevin's research partner, and the project's co-leader stepped forward. The best part is that we've built this entirely with human knowledge and human materials. No alien technology was used. We don't need their permission, their gates, or their approval. The crowd erupted in cheers. For 2 years, humanity had been trapped in the Sol system like prisoners. Now they had the key to escape their cage. Manufacturing coordinator Carol Martinez raised her hand from the back of the room. How quickly can we build more of these engines? Our shipyards are ready to start production immediately. We can have 50 engines ready within 6 months, Kevin replied. 100 within a year. And that's just the beginning. Carol smiled. She had been working day and night to prepare for this moment. Using automation techniques that the Council had banned as too disruptive to traditional employment, human shipyards now produced vessels at a rate that would have shocked the galaxy. What once took years to build could now be completed in weeks at the Luna City spaceport. Test pilot Rick Johnson climbed into the cockpit of humanity's first new-generation starfighter. The Falcon was half the size of Council military craft, but packed with innovations that made it deadlier than anything the aliens had ever built. "Control, this is Falcon 1, Rick said into his radio. "All systems green. Ready for combat trials." "Copy." "That Falcon 1, replied Flight Control Officer Betty Adams. "You are cleared for full performance testing."
Yes!
"Show us what human engineering can do." Rick engaged the engines and felt the incredible power surge through the ship. The Falcon accelerated faster than any Council vessel, turned tighter than physics should have allowed, and carried weapons that could punch through alien armor like paper. Most importantly, it was built to be operated by a single human pilot, not the large crews that Council ships required. As Rick pushed the fighter through its paces, he couldn't help but laugh. "Control, the aliens are going to hate this thing. It's everything they said was impossible." Meanwhile, on the farming world of New Texas, agricultural scientist Pete Williams walked through fields of grain that stretched to the horizon. The crops were taller, healthier, and more productive than anything grown in Council space. "How did you do it?" asked visiting reporter Janet Miller, who was documenting humanity's recovery for the Colony News Networks. "Simple," Pete replied, pulling up a stalk of wheat that was twice the normal size. "We stopped following Council agricultural restrictions. They claimed their farming methods were designed to preserve natural balance, but really they just kept crop yields low." Janet recorded as Pete explained his revolutionary techniques. "We used genetic modification, advanced fertilizers, and automated harvesting systems, all things the Council banned. They said it was dangerous, but look around you. We're feeding twice as many people with half the land." On Earth, communications expert Maria Santos worked in a facility that didn't officially exist. Her job was to monitor Council communications networks and gather intelligence about alien activities. What she discovered was even more shocking than Susan Taylor's research into their technology. "Commander Morrison," Maria said as she called Jake into her secure office. "You need to see this." She showed him decrypted messages between Council leaders, messages that revealed the truth about humanity's expulsion. "They've been planning this for years," Maria explained. "Ever since we made first contact, they've been documenting every human innovation, every question we asked, every boundary we pushed. They called us a destabilizing influence that needed to be contained." Jake read the messages with growing anger. "They were never planning to accept us as equals. This was always about keeping us under control." "Gets worse," Maria continued. "Look at this intelligence report about other species. The Council has done this before, dozens of times. Any civilization that shows too much curiosity or develops too quickly gets isolated or destroyed." She showed him files about civilizations that had been relocated to primitive worlds, their technologies confiscated and their populations scattered. Others had simply vanished from the galactic records entirely. They're not maintaining peace, Jake realized. They're maintaining their own power. They're afraid of competition. While Maria uncovered the Council's secrets, Ambassador Helen Moore was making contact with species that had suffered under Council rule. Working through hidden channels, she reached out to civilizations that had been suppressed, restricted, or punished for their desire to advance. The Altarians want to help us, Helen reported during a secret meeting with Earth's leadership. Their government is still loyal to the Council, but their people remember what freedom was like before. The restrictions began. Admiral Claire Thompson, now commanding a growing fleet of human-built warships, leaned forward. "How many species are we talking about?" "At least 30 that we know of," Helen replied. "Probably more. The Council has made a lot of enemies over the years. They've just been too afraid to act alone." "But they might not be alone anymore," Claire said thoughtfully. The breakthrough came when Maria Santos finally cracked the Council's most secure database. What she found there changed everything humanity thought they knew about galactic civilization. "They're parasites," she announced to the emergency council meeting. "The Council species haven't developed their own technology in thousands of years. Everything they have was stolen from younger civilizations that they conquered or destroyed. The database contained evidence of systematic theft going back millennia. The Council's advanced technology was actually a collection of innovations, taken from hundreds of different species, many of which no longer existed. The Zephyrians didn't invent faster-than-light travel," Maria continued. "They stole it from a species called the Navigators, who they wiped out 3,000 years ago. The Krenari didn't develop their mining technology. They took it from the Diggers, who they enslaved and worked to death." Jake felt sick as he read the files. "How many civilizations have they destroyed?" "Hundreds," Maria replied. "Thousands. And they've been using the stolen technology to prevent new species from developing anything that might threaten their power." Dr. Susan Taylor stood up. "That explains why their technology is so stagnant. They're not innovators. They're thieves, who are afraid that someone will develop something better than what they've stolen," said Admiral Claire Thompson, with a cold smile. "They were right to be afraid, because we just did." As the meeting ended, Jake looked around the room at humanity's leaders. 2 years ago, they had been cast out of galactic civilization as dangerous primitives. Now they possessed technology that surpassed anything the Council had. Along with evidence of crimes that stretched back millennia, the aliens had made a critical mistake. They had given humanity time to prepare, space to innovate, and a very good reason to be angry. Soon the galaxy would learn. What happened when you underestimated the species that had clawed its way up from a primitive world to the stars through pure determination and ingenuity? The Council had wanted to preserve their version of cosmic order. Instead, they had created the force that would tear it down and build something better in its place. Captain Steve Baker moved quietly through the shadows of the massive archive building on Zephyros Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council. His stealth suit, built with human technology that the aliens had never seen before, made him nearly invisible to their security systems. "Nancy, what's your status?" he whispered into his communication device. "I'm in position at the main server room," replied Intelligence Officer Nancy Clark from 3 floors below. "Tim has disabled their backup security. We have maybe 20 minutes before they notice." Systems analyst Tim Rogers had spent months studying Zephyrian computer networks. Their technology was thousands of years old and full of weaknesses that human hackers could easily exploit. "Steve, I'm downloading everything I can find. The files here go back over 10,000 years. This was the most dangerous mission humanity had ever attempted. Getting to the Council capital required sneaking past dozens of patrol fleets using their new stealth ships. If they were caught, it would mean war before humanity was ready. But the intelligence they hoped to find could change everything, Steve." Reached the central archive chamber and felt his breath catch. The room was enormous, filled with crystalline storage devices that reached up into the darkness above. Each crystal contained the history, technology, and culture of a different alien species. "My God," he whispered. "Okay, there must be thousands of them." He began scanning the crystals with his handheld device, downloading their contents. Each one told the same horrible story. A young civilization would develop faster than light travel and make contact with the galaxy. The Council would welcome them, study their technology, and then find excuses to restrict their development. Eventually, the species would either be enslaved, relocated to primitive worlds, or simply disappear from galactic records. "Steve, you need to see this." Nancy's voice came through his earpiece. "I found files about Earth. They've been watching us since we first launched satellites into orbit." Steve downloaded faster, his hands shaking with anger as he read file after file. The Council had detailed plans for humanity dating back over a century. They had known humans would eventually develop space travel, and they had prepared methods to control or eliminate them long before first contact was made. "They were never going to let us join as equals," Steve said. "This was always a trap." Meanwhile, back in human space, Admiral Dan Cooper was coordinating with resistance groups across the galaxy. Using communication networks that the Council couldn't monitor, he had made contact with dozens of species that wanted their freedom back. "Admiral Cooper, this is Commander Veltar of the Altarian Underground," came a transmission from the Altera system. "My people are ready to act. We've been preparing for this day for 20 years. Don looked at the star map displayed on his command center's main screen. Red dots marked Council strongholds, while green dots showed worlds where resistance movements were active. There were far more green dots than he had expected. "Commander Veltar, what kind of forces can you provide?" Don asked. "We have been secretly building ships using technology your people shared with us," Veltar replied. "Nothing as advanced as human vessels, but good enough to fight Council patrols. More importantly, we know the location of every Council military base in this sector." Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. The hegemony species, who had been reduced to slave labor for Council mining operations, were ready to revolt. The artistic Melodians, banned from developing new forms of technology, had been secretly preparing for decades. Even some former Council loyalists were beginning to question the system they had supported. On the research station hidden in the asteroid belt, scientist Ashley Rodriguez led a team studying captured Council war machines. What they found confirmed humanity's growing understanding of their enemy's weakness. "These ships are built with technology stolen from at least 12 different species," Ashley reported to the research team. "The weapons come from the destroyers, who the Council wiped out 4,000 years ago. The shields are based on Defender technology from 6,000 years ago. Even the basic hull design was stolen from someone else." Engineer Mike Davis examined the ship's computer core. "Look at this processing unit. It's incredibly primitive by human standards. They've been using the same basic design for millennia, without any improvements." "That's because they don't know how to improve it," Ashley realized. "They never developed this technology themselves. They just copied what other species built." The captured Council ships fell apart under human analysis. Every system was outdated. Every design was flawed. Every component was inferior to what humans could now build. The mighty Galactic Council was revealed to be a house of cards built on stolen foundations. Back on Zephyros Prime, Steve Baker's team was completing their mission when alarms began sounding throughout the archive building. They had been discovered. "Tim, how much more time do you need?" Steve asked as he heard footsteps echoing through the corridors. 2 more minutes?" Tim replied frantically. "I'm downloading the master index, so it'll tell us the location of every species the Council has destroyed or relocated." Nancy appeared at Steve's side, her weapon ready. "Council security forces are surrounding the building. We need to go now." "Not yet," Steve said firmly. "This information is too important." The sound of energy weapons firing echoed from the lower floors. Council guards were fighting their way up to the archive chamber, but human weapons and tactics were proving superior even in this desperate situation. "Got it," Tim announced. "I have everything. All their records, all their crimes, all their secrets." The 3 humans activated their escape plan. Explosives they had planted throughout the building began detonating. Not to destroy the archives, but to create chaos and confusion. In the smoke and panic, they slipped away using emergency teleportation devices that beamed them directly to their hidden ship. As their stealth vessel left Zephyros Prime, Steph looked back at the Council capital. Soon, every species in the galaxy would know the truth about their supposed protectors. "Nancy, send the data burst to all resistance cells," Steve ordered. "Let them see what the Council really is." Within hours, The stolen files were spreading across the galaxy through hidden networks. Species that had lived under Council rule for thousands of years learned the fate of their ancestors, us. They discovered that the technology they were forbidden to develop had been stolen from civilizations just like theirs. They realized that the Council's promises of protection were lies designed to keep them weak and dependent. The Altarian government fell within a day as their people learned that their homeworld had once been part of a great interstellar empire that the Council had destroyed. The hegemony slaves rose up when they discovered that their species had once been master engineers whose innovations had built half the Council's infrastructure. Even loyal Council species began questioning leaders who had hidden the truth for so long. Julie Martinez, working as a data analyst for the Human Resistance, watched the intelligence reports flooding in from across the galaxy. "It's working," she told Admiral Cooper. "Resistance movements are forming on every major Council world. Some species are declaring independence. Others are demanding answers from their governments." "How long before the Council responds?" Cooper asked. "They're already mobilizing there." "Fleets," Julie replied. "But here's the interesting part. Many of their member species are refusing to fight. Some are even joining the resistance." Admiral Cooper smiled grimly. "Then it's time for Phase 2. Send the signal to Admiral Thompson. Operation Liberation begins now." The galaxy was about to change forever. The Council had built their empire on lies and stolen technology. Now that the truth was revealed, their house of cards was falling down. And humanity, the species they had cast out as too dangerous to control, was leading the charge to build something better from the ruins. 5 years after humanity's expulsion from the Galactic Council, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the flagship Defiance, watching a fleet of human warships prepare for the final battle. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering, equipped with technology that would have been impossible under Council restrictions. "Call ships report ready, Admiral," said Communications Officer Dan Cooper. "The Liberation Fleet is in position." Jake looked at the tactical display showing their target, the Nexus Station, the Council's central command facility that controlled their entire galactic network. Destroying it would cripple the Council's ability to coordinate their remaining forces. "Begin Operation Liberation," Jake ordered. The first target was the Kepler Enforcement Station, where the Council had imprisoned thousands of dissidents from dozens of species. Captain Lisa Carter, now commanding the advanced warship Freedom, led the assault team that would free the prisoners. "Freedom to all ships," Lisa's voice crackled over the radio. "Remember, our goal is liberation, not destruction. Disable their weapons and shields, but avoid civilian casualties." The battle was over almost before it began. Human ships moved with impossible speed and precision, their artificial intelligence systems coordinating attacks that the Council's ancient vessels couldn't counter. Lisa's ship alone destroyed 6 Council patrol boats in less than 2 minutes. "Target their prison facility," Lisa ordered. "Get those people out of there." As the Freedom's boarding teams broke open the prison cells, they found aliens from species that were supposed to be extinct. Survivors of civilizations that the Council had claimed were destroyed by natural disasters or internal conflicts. The truth was that these beings had been imprisoned for the crime of developing technology too quickly. "Thank you," whispered Anne. Elderly navigator, one of the last members of the species that had invented faster-than-light travel. "We have waited so long for someone to come." Meanwhile, engineer Paul Jackson watched from the Defiance as human technology tore through Council defenses like they were made of paper. The enemy's ships were larger and more numerous, but they moved like ancient relics compared to the swift human vessels. "Their targeting systems can't keep up with our speed," Paul reported to Admiral Morrison. "Their weapons are designed for the slow, predictable movements of their own ships." The Council had grown complacent over thousands of years. Of easy victories against technologically inferior opponents, they had never faced an enemy that could outthink, outmaneuver, and outfight them using superior innovation. At the Altair system, Admiral Claire Thompson commanded the 2nd Human Battle Group as they coordinated with local resistance forces. The Altarians had been building ships in secret for years, and now their hidden fleet emerged to join the fight. "Human ships, "This is Fleet Commander Veltar," came the transmission from the lead Altarian vessel. "We are honored to fight beside you. Today, we reclaim our freedom." The combined human-alien fleet swept through the Altair defenses, liberating world after world. Council garrison forces, designed to intimidate primitive civilizations, were helpless against coordinated attacks by advanced technology and motivated fighters. "Claire, we're receiving surrender requests from 3 Council patrol fleets," reported her tactical officer. "They're asking for terms." "Tell them the terms are simple," Claire replied. "Lay down your weapons and help us free the species you've been oppressing. Do that, and they'll be welcomed into the new galactic community as equals." Many Council forces took the offer. Soldiers who had spent their lives enforcing restrictions they didn't understand finally learned the truth about their government's crimes. Some even joined the Liberation Fleet, bringing inside knowledge of Council tactics and strongholds. The climactic battle came when Admiral Jake Morrison led the main human fleet against the Nexus station itself. The massive facility was defended by the combined forces of the 3 founding Council species, the Zephyrians, the Kronari, and the Velkari Empire. "Sir, we're outnumbered 10-1, reported Tactical Officer Susan Taylor, who had left her research position to serve on the front lines. "Numbers don't matter when you have better technology and a just cause," Jake replied. "All ships execute. Attack pattern, liberation. Show them what human ingenuity can accomplish." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships danced between enemy fire, their movements coordinated by artificial intelligence that processed tactical data faster than any organic mind could follow. Council ships that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia found themselves outgunned by vessels half their size. The turning point came when Captain Amy Rodriguez, now commanding the exploration ship New Horizon, led a squadron directly through the station's defenses to disable its central command system. Her ship had been designed for peaceful exploration, but human adaptability had transformed it into an instrument of liberation. "This is for every species you destroyed," Amy said, as she fired the shot that crippled the Nexus station's main computer, with their command center disabled. The Council fleet began to fall apart. Ships that had fought together for thousands of years suddenly couldn't coordinate their actions. Some tried to retreat, others attempted to surrender, and a few fought on alone until they were disabled by human boarding parties. When the battle ended, Admiral Morrison found himself standing in the ruins of the Council chambers where humanity had been expelled 5 years earlier. The once mighty Galactic Council was finished, their empire of lies and stolen technology finally brought down. "Admiral Morrison," came a transmission from Admiral Thompson, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. 47 species have declared their independence from Council rule. 63 more are requesting human assistance in establishing free governments." Jake nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Destroying the old order had been the easy part. Building something better would be the real challenge. Ambassador Susan Taylor, promoted from her scientific position, addressed the gathered representatives of liberated species in the same chamber where humanity had once been condemned. "The age of artificial limits is over," she announced. "No longer will any species be told they cannot explore, cannot innovate, cannot reach for the stars. The Free Species Alliance welcomes all civilizations as equals, united in our commitment to progress, freedom, and mutual cooperation." The audience erupted in cheers that echoed through the station. Beings who had lived under Council oppression for generations finally had hope for the future. The former Council worlds were not conquered, but invited to join the new alliance. Many accepted gratefully, their populations eager to explore possibilities that had been forbidden for millennia. Even some of the ruling species joined after learning the truth about their governments. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood at the helm of her ship as she prepared to lead the first joint expedition to unexplored regions of the galaxy. Her crew included humans, Altarians, freed navigators, and even former Council citizens who wanted to make amends for their species' past actions. "Ready for departure, Captain?" reported her mixed-species bridge crew. Then let's see what's out there, Amy said with a smile. Time to discover what the galaxy can become when everyone is free to reach their potential. As the exploration fleet jumped to faster than light speed using human-designed engines, they carried with them the hopes of an entire galaxy. Humanity, once cast out as too dangerous to control, had become the catalyst for the greatest era of freedom and progress the universe had ever known. The galaxy was finally free to grow, explore, and become everything it was meant to be. It had taken the species that refused to accept limits to show everyone else that limits were just illusions created by those who feared change. The age of stagnation was over. The age of unlimited possibility had begun.